Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 7 of Epic Loot Radio. Joining me as we have a legendary lineup of great proportion. We're going to be talking today with Chris from Work to Game, Ukumio, Nick, and ChaosPrime of YouTube fame. We're going to be diving into a big show today, kind of covering two massive topics with some interrelation. There's definitely a little drama on the internet this week, and it's good to sit back and kind of dive into it. But today's show, we're going to be covering the Anthem updates. Anthem Next released their progression and loot system. Some people saying it looks very Destiny-esque. And we're also going to be talking about Halo, multiplayer going free to play, 120 frames per second on the Series X, and more about the Halo reveal that we kind of covered last week live, which was an epic show. Lots of exciting things to be shown off. And the biggest takeaway from all of it, everything Xbox showed off, was Game Pass. Game Pass, Game Pass, Game Pass. So that's going to come up in today's episode. If you're joining us live, thank you very much for being here. This is a live interactive show, so let us know if you're here. And if you subscribe, we want to welcome you to Junior Gaming Radio. But without further ado, I'm going to toss over to Chaos first. Chaos, we had some big epic news this week. We have Anthem 2.0. And you made a 24-minute video, that was filled with ads. Talk to me a little bit, man. Because
I think it's really good. I mean, a lot of people have been complaining that, they're taking a lot, they're copying too much from Destiny, and there's like things from the Division that they've taken. But they've openly said that they're now looking at other games. Previously, they were, criticized for not looking at other games or taking inspiration from other games. If you're going to look at games that have been successful and you want your franchise to be successful, you look at the best, right? And at the moment, Destiny's passed the test of time.
Now we're going to do a deep dive. Go ahead, please. Sorry.
I was just going to say, if you look at Marvel's Avengers, their item comparison screen is almost the same as Destiny as well, because it just works. It's so clean and simple. You just adapt it to your own way.
So we're going to do actually a deep dive in the blog post so that we can set the context for everybody who might not have seen either your video, my video, or the blog post itself. But before we do that, Chris has always said, let me know when it's ready. Let me know when this game's ready. Yeah, he's just been on the fence. Nick, from what we saw this week, what would you tell somebody like Chris about this game, and what expectation or time frame should they try to budget some time to play?
Well, honestly, I played, I think, 200 hours of Anthem when it came out. So, a lot of time. I did not really enjoy it. I just did it in order to do it. I enjoyed the gameplay. I love this guy because he's so truthful. Like, it's like, all right, and it kicked me in the balls, and then I was done. Okay. But, I enjoyed the gameplay. The gameplay is solid. That's not where they need to work, for the most part. Mm-hmm. The loot and equipment was right out of the gate, the first thing criticized. So I'm glad that's one of the first things they're addressing. Honestly, I'm not expecting this to be done until mid-2021, personally. And I would not play it until it is 2.0. There's no point. But yeah.
I follow the dollar per hour rule, but that doesn't just mean $1 per hour played. That's $1 per hour enjoyed. So like 200 hours of kicking the balls, you still haven't earned your first dollar. I think the game got down as low as $2, and I just wasn't confident I could get $2, 2 hours of joy.
It comes down to if they have a reason to play now. One thing that Christian Daly has, that is the number one question for 1.7, which is the current build for Anthem. People are still playing the game. There are people, you can find fun in anything you do, and I'm glad they're finding fun there. But there's no confirmation that your cosmetics or anything will carry forward from right now. So thus, my advice always has been, hold up, wait. Go ahead.
That's the biggest thing right now, right? And I said that in my video as well, where the one thing I expected this week's blog to actually confirm was what transfers through. They're talking about loot, they're talking about gear. So this was the ideal time to talk about what goes from 1.0 to 2.0. I just think they don't know themselves yet.
Yeah.
They're still building on. And the fact that now you've actually got armor with stats, because that's new to Anthem. Previously, your armor was just purely cosmetic, so there was no real problem with transferring it. But with the way the game had... they've changed the whole design, essentially, by adding armor now with physical stats on them. So how cosmetics will react on top of those, it's just a case of whether they can do it or not. But they need to announce that if they want people to play the original game.
You mean an RPG? Nick, you're going to jump in?
Yeah, so I was going to say, like, we've seen this situations pretty much in Destiny. Not exactly the same, of course. But in, like, Destiny Year 1 or Destiny 2, you had static rolls on weapons and armor and everything. And so for Year 2 and onwards, they were just like, okay, we're going to sort of put those weapons in the past. You can still get them. You can still play them. They're just as they are, right? Everything you earn from now on is Year 2, 3, whatever. And it has the new roles. So I dare say, like, you will be able to keep, like, hopefully you'll be able to keep your stuff. The old stuff will just be useless.
If it's a drastic loot change, like as an outsider, I mean, I played the beta, and then I just didn't think that I wanted to spend money on this game. But like, if it's a drastic change to the loot, like if you change the slots on a suit, or you change the suits that are available, then like it is possible that you just can't marry those, right?
Yeah,
like
that's totally restructure the way equipment works.
True,
that you may break the chest into two different parts, or you may. So like you could literally move in a direction where there just isn't an easy way to carry it forward, outside of hamstringing a cosmetic system to make the cosmetic system be forced to receive it. But if their goal is really to refresh it from the ground up, I would hope that they would design it first and then see if the stuff could carry forward, instead of coming on the premise of like, okay, we've got a handful of people that aren't upset with us. Let's try to preserve those at the cost of this relaunch, which has cost them who knows how much money.
Oh, I think that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
It's clear that is exactly what they're doing. They're building things first and then looking at what can go over second. And as much as it pains me to say, I think it's the right choice, because at the end of the day, 1.0 was still limited with certain things. And if they're going to go all out and change things like allow you to mod individual pieces of your armor, I'd take that any day over a cosmetic skin. Sure, people have spent money on it, and I know people have. I know people that have spent a lot of money. And sure, people have spent lots of hours in that game, but it is one of those things, right?
If they can find a way to bridge that, right? If they can find a way to bridge that, especially for those who've put in money, it is a lot of goodwill. One of the things they're doing with this is they're trying to reestablish goodwill within the player base, and there's going to be some that are never going to come back, or they're going to always be skeptical. And honestly, that's fine. You burn somebody, you shouldn't expect them to, you get to put your hand on the stove, and you're like, oh, that's hot. You're like, you got to kind of earn the fact that it's like, come back. Here's what we're going to do. Here's how we're going to respect your time and your investment in our property. I think that's the best way to go about it. Game companies and companies will obviously make whatever decision they make. Probably what's going to make the most sense from a timing perspective. But what I like to hear, and what we'll cover here in just a second, is their discipline in this is going to take time. This is going to take a lot of time, and they keep iterating that, because I definitely see people like, oh, is this coming this year? And I go, oh, no way.
No.
You don't want it this year. Yeah.
I wouldn't be shocked for it to be a holiday of next year and then miss it.
Yeah.
That's like just spring of the following. They'll announce for holiday and then miss the deadline. Yeah. That's my guess.
Yeah, it's like, you heard it here, folks, guys. Holiday 2021, but they're not going to make it.
But they will make it. It'll be spring of 22.
All right, let's dive in right now real quick to the article itself. I'd like to get to y'all's reaction. I've read it. I know Chaos has. I'll go ahead and just dive in and start covering what they're saying. And then I'd like to, feel free to just jump in if you guys have a reaction, or if we want to kind of chew on a paragraph here. But it begins, so to catch everybody up to speed, Christian Daly is now the studio director. This is the Edmonton team. This is the Texas team. Howdy, boys. So that's what we're doing here. And he is leading this team in COVID, so lots of Zoom. So you can see here that he's and his team are all meeting, and they're trying to, how can you build this game that has to take this time? Everything's being delayed, so that's going to be what it is. Anyway, it begins. Hello again. I hope this finds you well, and I appreciate everyone's patience as we work through the right timing for new information. We're excited to share with you in our next blog, but we also want to be respectful of the larger conversations happening in the world, obviously addressing everything that's going on in the world outside of just game development and, bad launches. So recently I started answering questions on Twitter, and I asked you all to pretty much name some of the changes that you're most interested in hearing about. The response was pretty awesome, and lots of good topics and themes, and an excitement to know more about where we're going. So to kick this off, we thought we'd have a good starting place. We would be able to go over the high-level goals and changes that we're exploring with loot and equipment. Now, before we get started, we'd love to be able to share with you the progress and give a peek behind the scenes. But that being said, the ideas, the images, the video clip below are all works in progress and are subject to change. Remember how the sausage is made. So I'm going to take a pause here on this topic, right? We've seen in game development and within gamers, like this kind of concept that things are easy. You just need to flip this one switch and it's all going to be fixed and good. But when he wrote his first blog back in May 15th, he was talking about really kind of just exposing everything. I think that's kind of to address the issue of the Kotaku article talking about the brutal aspect of game development and crunch and the BioWare magic, to say, hey, we're going to let you guys see how it's all done. And I got so nervous because ultimately you're talking to a wide range of gamers who have different experiences and understandings of how game development is. I think that is just so risky, but I can understand why they're doing it. Chris, you're shaking your head. What are your thoughts just regarding the sausage being made within game development?
I think at this point in history with the gaming community and the expectations, whether or not they're reasonable, I think there's only two ways that you can communicate this. I think you can either be 100% transparent and just hope that the number of endearing and defending fans can outnumber or convince or quiet the ones who are out there to cancel you or go out and bash you. And you have to know that when a YouTube video goes out or a tweet goes out that bashes you, even if that person's opinion changes, that video stays out there forever. Mm-hmm. And so you have to just know that. And so you have to be okay with the cost of that, and hope that endears you. I mean, I think Cyberpunk 2077 has been fairly transparent with us about why there's been delays. They've showed us gameplay when possible. And as a result, I think if they delay it again and again and again, people have proven they will be infinitely patient for that game. The other way to go at it is very much just like an Apex Legends, where you don't share anything, nothing, which means they would have had to already not tell us there was going to be a 2.0. And then you just drop it and you say, have you not been playing the new Anthem? Oh, it came out today. Like, that's the other method. And so they've already left that one. So their only choice, in my opinion, is to go this direction. So it's nice to hear. I think it's hugely risky, but it's less risky, in my opinion, than trying to ride that middle ground. That's where we see studios get burned, when they share one thing and then they go silent on another, and people just immediately start assuming the world of them.
I agree. Personally, I don't like the whole complete radio silence, and I think it hurt them a lot within Anthem 1.0.
Yeah.
If they were a lot more vocal, a lot more communicative, don't mean to say anything about the community managers. I know they had a lot of gagging orders as well, but if they were about a lot more, I think it would have been I think the transition of what was going on would have been a lot better. But just completely just going dead silent and leaving everyone out there on their own who paid, 40, 50, 60, 80 pounds for that game. And in the condition that it ended up coming out and where it was going, I just think that was the worst thing they could have done. I think this time they've learned a few things, and by getting the community involved, I mean, they've clearly got a vision in mind and they've got a path that they want to follow. I mean, that's obviously clean. You can see that by the path they're already taking. But what they're looking for now is endorsement and validation from the community to say, yes, X, Y, and Z is really good. Y could do a bit more of work. And then they'll weigh in the majority of the views. If it works with the vision that they're going for, then they'll make those changes. But at least they know that they're getting positive feedback from the actual things that they're showing. It also means that by them showing us stuff like this is community engagement. Now we've got that go to and from, and we can hear from the developers. We can hear from Christian and other people, and it's nice. This way, even if the game is coming out next year, you don't care, because at this point, you've got that dialogue that's going on. You've got those updates that's coming through. The community can get involved. They feel involved. Like, I saw one tweet where a guy, I forgot his name, but he basically said that he didn't like the tile system that they were using, because it was the Windows 10 tile system, and he didn't like it. And he was saying if that could change. And, you know, there's a number of people who don't like that design for the Windows 10. I personally don't mind it. I think it makes it look clean and chic, but others don't. But they took on that feedback and they responded to him personally saying, you know, we've taken your feedback. It 100% matters. Thanks for that. And that tweet, even though they may never act on that, it means a lot to that person who got a personal response from the dev.
You feel heard.
That person better play.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what else they change. Like if they personally go to your way of thinking on an element, sorry,
gotta try it.
You're committed to buy the collector's edition, maybe buy it for a friend.
But it makes a lot of difference, and being able to having that communication back and forth, I think, is definitely good.
Nick, what are your thoughts?
I mean, it's just like I was just thinking, like this entire generation, we've moved to more online focused games.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, we've just seen more and more games release in horrid states or just completely miss the mark. And obviously, Anthem was one of those. And it's just interesting to see how different companies go about addressing that. Some go completely silent, like No Man's Sky. Others are like really communicate what they're doing. And I really do like what BioWare's doing with Anthem. I mean, it was a bit hit and miss early on, but like where they are now is really good.
Now, I want to jump into some chat here. We got Derpy McSquirtle, and then we're going to continue on regarding the loot experience for this post. Derpy writes, I think taking inspiration from games like Destiny, Borderlands, etc. is only a good thing. They definitely seem to be heading in the right direction now, but there's certainly a long way to get. And he follows it up saying, I mean, to lose things like weapons and components, etc. would be a bit annoying. I just hope that the cosmetics that I've earned can be brought somehow and transitioned over, and I'm sure they'll figure it out. And so that's kind of relating to the fact that there lots are changing. Like everything on the table can be completely redone, and we can have, you know, like they're not holding on to saying we have to keep this one core component, and thus it prevents us from actually making the game that we want. Do you guys have any thoughts regarding what Derpy's talking about before we move into the next phase?
I think your Final Fantasy 14 discount is the best way to handle it. I think anybody who bought the game, regardless of if they bought a cosmetic, if you want to try to give some benefit to people that got cosmetics, you either give them a cheaper access to a subscription if there's a microtransaction like subscription, like a season pass type model, or you give them a big bulk chunk of cosmetic credits or whatever the new microtransaction system is. Just give them either a head start or give them a long-term discount that will say, hey, this will eventually pay out for you. You know, you save $1 a month off your sub on Final Fantasy 14 forever. You just do. You're just a legacy player, and we want to say sorry for 1.0, and we will continue to say sorry every month. You will continue to pay us to play our current game.
Yeah.
I mean, something that I thought was really good with Halo MCC, we all know that released broken.
Yeah.
It's
And
still broken.
well, yeah, but they're working on it. But I mean, when it launched, it was way worse.
It was, but anyway, we'll get into Halo in a minute, but yeah, go ahead.
But like one of the things they did was they said straight away is we screwed up. Here's Halo 3 ODST just for free. And I think that was a good, you know, a good sign of just saying we're sorry. Here's the reward. You know, it's just a sign of goodwill, right?
Do you think so No Man's Sky didn't do a sign of goodwill, right? They just fixed everything.
They just fixed everything, yeah.
And then
that's
they
the other
released
option,
expansion.
right? Like a good game forgives all. So
They charged for the expansion, though, didn't they?
I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem if they want to charge for the expansion. I actually don't have a problem if they want to charge for 2.0 as long as they commit and deliver to the 1.0 players. Like, you did not get what you were expecting or you wanted. If you've played the game, if you've, you know, logged in before, you know, October 1st, 2020, here you go. Here's your copy. Like, go nuts. And by the way, there's other ways they can monetize. There's so many other ways that they'll be able to make that up if they deliver a good game, that you don't want to have that barrier for people who've already bought in. Then if you're sitting here saying, hey, we have no clue who you are, you've never registered or created a Javelin, and now the game's awesome, yeah, they're going to charge Chris for it. And they could charge Chris full price. But imagine if you got the game for $2, you logged in, and all of a sudden for $2 you're playing the next Anthem Next, and it's a great experience. Wow, that was a great use of your time. You know, that was a great $2.
So I personally think that they're gonna do something similar to what you said. There's gonna be a cutoff date before the price started crashing.
Yeah,
and anyone that bought it within that period, because they can see when you first went online, right?
Right. They have that.
So anyone
they
have that data. So anyone that was online during that time, I'm expecting either those people are going to get a free upgrade because some of them paid like £80 like I did, or they're going to get like a really, really massively discounted promotion code that they can input into the new system and pick it up. But
or your
I don't
basic copy's now a collector. Yep.
But I don't believe anyone that bought it for like £2 or $2, as you guys had it over there, is going to get it for free or going to get a discount. And I know people out there are saying, well, I got it for, $5 and whatnot. I'm expecting my free copy. No, I just don't see that ever happening.
Yeah, we can only speculate on that, at that point, and who knows what they'll do. I just think that from a player goodwill perspective, they're make sure that you do right by the people who bought in. And then
I don't expect
Go ahead, Chris.
Expect it to scale. When you say do right, I don't expect it to scale. I don't think that the people who I don't think that the person who paid $80 and bought $100 worth of cosmetics is going to magically get more. I think there's going to be a big bucket.
Yeah,
just when you say do right, like before we set that expectation.
That's true. Everybody's going to have a different definition to do right.
People are my expectation. I spent 120. He spent 60. Why do you get the same thing?
Well, you can't.
I don't know. It's going to be the same bucket.
Jesus found you at the end of the day, and he said, "Come work in my field," and he paid you the same. Like I'm not going to sit here and care about it much. We were doing a podcast like 6 months ago, and Chris brought up that analogy for something I thought was just like fantastic. I was like, we're gonna piss 50% of the world off on this one. Let's go ahead and dive into satisfying loot experience. A good player experience depends on the loot system being extensible and robust, and a lot can go wrong. We should highlight that. A lot did go wrong. We fell short here, and we realized that building something new from the ground up was going to be required, starting with taking a long look at understanding the best in class and the many great games that inspire us. Based on this research, along with our thoughts and feedbacks, we planned some high-level goals and changes that we wanted to try. So we want to focus in on respecting your time, increasing the frequency of loot drops. We want loot to be more viable more often. All items are better and more competitive, but there's still a chance of getting something exceptional. And then all loot rarities and strategic value throughout progression there is. Now, embracing choice. They want you to be able to pursue specific loot without having to rely on randomness alone. And that was one of my biggest critiques. I said that once you hit level 30, you lost that static grind. XP meant something, you're leveling up, you're unlocking things, and then essentially you hit level 30, which is the current cap, and then XP was pointless, pretty much. They had an alliance system, but now that, and once the Exodus happened, it was really pointless. Like, you were like, okay, this is really benefiting me. I need to make new friends who are still playing. But everything progression became 100% RNG. It's like Chris and I, we'd go to work, we'd both do the same job, and at the end of the day, we rolled dice to see which one of us got paid. And it became to the point where, why do I even show up? Like, I'm not getting the thing that I need, and there's no way, and there's RNG progression is perfectly fine, in my opinion, if it's also married with a form of static progression, something you're working your way towards. So you don't get the drop that time, but you did make 10% progress towards it via, a quest or via something so that you can kind of control and mix and match. Chris, you got a thought right there?
Yeah. I would say that the raiding experience in MMOs has taught me that showing up and not getting anything at the end of the night is fine if the reward is large enough. Mm-hmm. It has to be large enough. I have been to plenty of raid nights in 14 or in WoW or in Eve, where we go off and we do all this stuff and I don't get anything for it. And many times I'm out money, right? I'm not only out my time, I've spent in-game resources to buy consumables or repair my gear or whatever. And then I've gone and dumped 4 uninterrupted hours, sitting at a desk for nothing. And that's fine. But the reward has to be something extremely tangible. Mm-hmm. It has to be a best in slot weapon waiting on the other side. And it can't be something that expires in 2 weeks, right? When the next version comes out, it has to be something that's going to last me at least a tier, at least several months. I don't know. That's my thought on that. Like, I don't have a problem with no reward. But what you were describing was worse than that. What you were describing was you're going to roll and then you're going to be paid. You're going to be reimbursed for lunch. And I'm not going to be reimbursed from lunch. And neither of us are getting paid for the whole day. That's what you described to me when I was asking if I should hop in. And I was like, that doesn't even sound like you're being paid for the full day.
I thought you were just saying about that now. And I was like, no.
When I asked you, when it was $2 and I said, should I hop in? And what is it like? And you were explaining, I was like, that's not even paying you for the whole day's labor.
Yeah.
It's you rolled and here's your parking.
Maybe.
I was still here all day.
All right, so it continues, says, create a rewarding loot experience. Loot feels exciting and more noticeable when it drops, and it's celebrated when collected. Rare enemies, aka walking treasure chests, create an exciting moments that burst at loot all at once, and they want to keep it accessible and immediate. And this is key, because this is the biggest complaint that we've had. They want to reveal and equip loot right away. And that was the thing where it's like, you'd get stuff, it was just these things, you're like, rare drop, rare drop, rare drop, and then at the end of the mission, if you didn't crash out, you got to see like, I got this and I got this. And I think they were trying to go for something where it was more fast and you're not taking time to like re-equip and reevaluate your gear, but it didn't work. And I think when you look at games that allow you to do that, Destiny being a great example, like you can equip the stuff. You got a new gun, you want to try it out right then and there. And then giving you that ability. And as long as the menus are fast and responsive, it isn't a lot of downtime, but the menus weren't fast. They weren't responsive. So there's some slowdown. So they're actually showing some, kind of a example play of picking up the loot and it rewarding you with the weapons and telling you what they are. Now we also have a couple chats here. Ash Sim says, are we talking Anthem? I sunk the pre-order price into that and I don't want to spend more for any DLC. And Snork the Sacred Boar, which is a fantastic name, says, if Anthem 2.0 should be free, and if it isn't, it will fail, and it should fail. So does anybody... Go ahead, Nick.
I definitely agree with that. I still think for one of these games, Destiny is a great model. With it's free to play. You have the expansions, which are totally optional experiences. And then you have the Battle Pass and microtransactions. I'm not a great fan of microtransactions like the Eververse store in Destiny, but I do like the expansions and Battle Pass system that Destiny uses.
And we're going to cover this here when we get into the Halo talk here in just a couple more minutes, because Halo's going free as well. And then we have the concept of Game Pass. Destiny 2 is coming in Game Pass. Chris actually is like, hey, okay, like, are we going to be playing, me and you playing some Destiny? Because there's no cost to him anymore. It's, hey, you got Destiny 2. In my mind, I'm wondering if Destiny 2 is going to be one of the killer apps for the Series X, because the two things that keeps Chris like playing Destiny with me is the cost to keep up and the loading times. Like, especially
time crushes my soul.
Yeah. So I'm just saying, like,
it's terrible.
Well, and then imagine, like, we were early before they go live on the show. Like, yeah, maybe it's free. Maybe it gets connected into EA Access or Game Pass or what other service. But then you can also have the optional, like, Battle Pass or some other things that, like, there's a million ways that they can choose to monetize the game that hopefully is fair to the player, but then also doesn't keep people away. Especially, like, with Snork here, talking about how the game should fail. Like, I think you remove every barrier for somebody to come back, especially if you deliver a good game. When we talk about, I like buy-to-play games. We're not going to be talking about New World here. We were talking about it before we hit go live. And they have a really good model. It's buy-to-play. I don't see games having this continual cost to maintain, to keep playing, being something that's going to provide a lot of like traffic here in the next decade. But that's just me. Chaos, do you want to add anything to what we're seeing here on the screen right now?
I think with the way the new loot system is being shown, I think it is the way forward. I mean, seeing the loot at the end screen wasn't that big of a problem. What was the biggest problem for me was when I would jump into free play with my friends. We would go around and we'd spend like hours there just going into those mini dungeons, clearing them out, coming back out. And before long, one of us would be full. So we would have to leave the instance.
Yeah.
And that was a huge problem.
Yeah.
That disconnect right there was massive. Because it just ruined the old experience. Because once you've gone back to Fort Tarsis, you just can't be bothered to get out again.
That whole loop was broken, like in design. And it definitely felt like they were trying to deliver this incredibly like narrative driven story. Hey, Nova Girl. And beyond that story, like then you have this multiplayer aspect. I thought like when you go and you look at the original trailer, when you go look at the game, when you go look at other games, how they do it, Like, make it a shared world, jump in, play, and every barrier, like, oh, you need to go back to Fort Tarsus, just let them go back to Fort Tarsus. Like, let them bounce out and then be able to jump back in. You didn't have that ability. Like, drop in and drop out multiplayer was something that was so fragile in its design. Go ahead, Chaos.
Originally, you were supposed to be able to enter those striders that you see that you can fast travel to, and that's where you could go into and change your javelins, get rid of your loot that you didn't want, all of that management stuff that we're talking about now. You were supposed to do in the field within those striders. That's what their original purpose was.
Yeah,
they were basically supposed to be mini hubs that you could go into, and certain people have even glitched into them, which proves that they're still there. They just weren't fully fleshed out to actually work. And the problem they had was that they just couldn't get the engine to work for them. So a lot of it got scrapped.
Yeah.
And, it's not like they didn't want it to be there. They just couldn't get it there.
All right. So reliability and equipment and rewards. Each item has an inscription, quote unquote, budget based off its power and rarity. No more useless items because they were missing must-have inscriptions. Basically, if you don't have the 225 increased percentage to damage.
Yes.
Exceptional items are about getting the exact type of bonuses that you want instead of maximizing the values on every bonus. And the scale for the future. They want the power crap to be easily increased and the loot system to scale accordingly. They want to use advanced telemetry data that basically helps them identify trends and make meaningful balances based off of data. Like, what are people actually doing? And I love telemetry as a programmer. It is so insightful. Like, before telemetry, you'd be like, I think this is happening. And then after telemetry, you're like, here is like the right data. But the key point here is understanding and interpreting the data correctly. We saw this problem in WoW. Chris, you kind of talked about that before, where people were, quote unquote, having fun, but they really weren't. But the data...
Number of play hours increased. Data says this is where people are spending their time. They must be enjoying this version of the content the most. No. This is the version of content that rewards the most.
Yeah.
It had nothing to do with joy.
What will be cool to see with telemetry, but when it comes to actually weapon data, one of the things that we hear a lot in the looter shooter is balance, right? So if the players like gravitate towards a weapon or a type of weapon, like all of a sudden 99% of everybody's just using this, then they could say, "Oh, like how do we can tweak that and see if we can start to scale that out and balance it out accordingly." Like outside of what people are doing, I would like to see it in terms of what weapons they're using. That's just my thought. Chris, I cut you off. I apologize.
Yeah, no, I mean, this whole thing feels like their looting is moving to like a Wolcen or Diablo 3 type system where you're just gonna have loot raining down. Now, once you get to end game, that does mean you're probably gonna go through a raid. You're probably not gonna check your loot till the end because you're wearing such good stuff anyway. What are the sheer odds that it's better? But for the average player who's just getting in that initial progression up, you're gonna have this continuous, oh my gosh, I found a legendary, and you're gonna stop what you're doing and you're immediately gonna check it out. And there's a lot of joy there. So it feels more like a looter, like a dungeon crawler at that point, which I think will help if they're having trouble getting us stably to go back to town. Then make the time that we're out of town more enjoyable for longer. So like that fixes a lot of the problems with the pacing of the game that made me not want to get in the first place. So I think it's all really exciting. I just, when people say telemetry and when people say choice, choice is just a click. It's just a word like synergy. It doesn't mean anything until you show me what it actually is, because people are still going to pick what's best. And then with the telemetry, like, how are you interpreting that data? And as somebody who has spent a significant amount of time on WoW, like, I'm just incredibly sensitive to them saying, well, the trends show this. Well, the trends show I don't like you. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like I played your game. I didn't like it. And yes, my playtime lined up exactly with the percentages that say that your system's working. It doesn't mean I had fun.
Now, Snork comes back here, says, I feel like I need to clarify. I don't think Anthem 2.0 should fail on its own, but Rashid, if they force everyone to pay $60, he wants them to go with the Destiny 2 model. And I think having that free-to-play tier is the right tier with this.
It is, yeah.
Do you like it? Yes or no? And then if you do, well, then maybe they come up and sell expansions down the road. They said originally their model was that everything was free. You'll never pay for any update. Everything's driven to the cosmetics. But then everything felt empty. everything felt empty when it came down to it. Like, you're like, okay, well, why do I run? There's nothing unique from this dungeon. There's no unique set to chase after. There's nothing, everything is just cosmetic, and then you have your components. So all in all, like, the fact is that they're taking this to the drawing board, and we've got pictures of guns and weapons here that we're going to be talking about. And then we're going to dive into Halo, because I do want to make sure we spend time, because there's so much to talk about there too. So he says, aligning around. Go ahead.
I was going to say, one thing that I think that they can borrow from the D2 model, which would actually benefit them with the free-to-play, is that they don't have no PvP.
Mm-hmm.
So unlike now where Destiny PvP is almost unplayable because of cheaters, Anthem wouldn't have that.
That's
so,
true. That's
no
true.
PvP, no cheaters. I mean, what are you going to do? Cheat in a PvE game?
Well, oh no, like, we had a cheater, and then we cleared it in 2 seconds. Like, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, no one's going to complain about that. Free loot.
I know, exactly. Thanks,
I mean,
guys.
just look at Destiny, right? It's people are finding exploits every single day to get free loot.
There's whole YouTube channels that their entire purpose is to pick a game and exploit it and then move to the next game.
Oh,
and they're wildly successful.
Yeah, I'm in the wrong business.
All right, let's go. We'll finish this. It says, aligning with these goals has really helped us to focus in on the right priorities as we continue iterating and seeing the progress of our internal playtesting. It's early through its play days, and we are going to continue to test and experiment over the coming months, and hopefully with your feedback, which hopefully will tie into a public test realm that we can start to kind of play and give that kind of feedback. We're going to cross our fingers that we get into that personally. Now, on other areas of exploration, in addition to the loot equipment, there are some really good improvements that we feel the type of items that we're supporting. Gunplay is overall more responsive, with enemies reacting to hits near instantly with improved client-side prediction. And we're looking into the role of melee items and builds, and of course being able to spend skill points to unlock new types of equipment and synergies. One of the things that I'm most excited about is seeing the new awesome weaponry concepts based off of our different factions. And so we see the Urgoth as a faction here. I think that was really exciting to hear Chaos's video.
Yep, I was very excited about that.
Anyway, we're not going to kind of go over too much of the designs, because we're still a long time away from that, and this is what this next thing focuses on. So until next time, I hope this helped give some context to the changes that we are testing around the loot and the equipment and what future blogs may dig into. Changes like these are exciting and hopefully will help out as well, but we want to set expectations that there's a lot of work behind each of these, in some cases rather a large tech undertaking. This is not a quote-unquote easy fix. It will take time. I emphasize that because I don't think this is going to be, I mean, when Chris was predicting holiday 2021 and them missing that mark, that could be right. I could still say in my mind, I just think 2022 at a minimum. Anyway, be safe, be kind of one another stronger together. So guys, thank you guys. That's just what came out this week. That's what we're talking about there. Any final thoughts before we dive into our Halo conversation itself? Because there's just so much that I want to cover about Halo free to play and mindset as well. Guys, floor's yours.
Mine's mainly a question, because I'm actually trying to rack my brain right now. I remember before launch, there was talks of skill trees. Did the game actually launch with a skill tree?
No, it needed it. And that's the thing. That's the update that pissed me off the most, is that they had an update that basically increased everybody's flying time. And with that flying time, I was like, why isn't that something you just get XP for, and then you can choose to increase your flying time or this or that? There's so many things that you could, because it's especially,
I want free stuff. I want an experience.
I don't want free stuff. Give me something that I can earn. Give me better farming. Give me, like, if I go and do something like Chris's analogy for Blue Mage, if I go and I get the same spell 1,000 times, let me modify it. Let me make it look different. Like, it doesn't even have to break the gameplay. Just make it cosmetic.
1,000 times. I can't get Ravana's skill once.
Right.
But, I mean, imagine how crazy it would be if you saw somebody with it.
Mm-hmm.
And like, imagine if you're flying, it's like, hey, and when your suit's flying, you can change the color of the flame coming out of it based on the number of flight hours you've had.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how'd you get the purple flying? Dude, you gotta fly for 10,000 hours. It's like that's awesome.
That also was supposed to be a thing within Anthem, but Frostbite proved that they couldn't do it. The simple fact is they shouldn't have chosen Frostbite. Frostbite really screwed the game development over. And those developers that actually spoke to Jason Schreier when he'd done his article, not sure how much you guys remember of the article.
Yeah, I remember it. It was the article was like a real like kick you when you're down.
But those developers, they hated Frostbite because it didn't. The whole Frostbite engine is designed for first-person shooters. not for third person. So they didn't even have a tool that could open inventory. That had to be recoded from scratch within Frostbite. Health bars, everything had to be done from ground level. Whereas they could have used something like Unreal Engine, which at the time, I think it's who was the
Apex?
EA head back then? No, EA
Well,
head.
yeah, the head of EA.
He told them to use. He actually told BioWare to use Unreal Engine 4, but BioWare chose to go with Frostbite because they wanted to, one, impress their bosses and shareholders, and two, unify the engines because they managed to do it with Dragon Age, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
and they didn't bother using any of the Dragon Age stuff.
They couldn't. It didn't work.
Right.
It literally didn't work. So all those tools that they had there were specific to that game. Anything they tried to import stuff from there, and it didn't work. So having to recreate all the tools you need for development just to get off the road, that's crazy.
Yeah.
But they still went with it. And in the end, like everything, things get chopped off if you're running out of time.
Yeah. Well, they had a lot of time. They had a lot of failed starts. The biggest problem, I think, was leadership. And then the leadership's new. Christian Daly is in charge now. And it's kind of, for me, there's a lot of Final Fantasy vibes that I get out of this entire story. And it's going to be interesting to see if they can do what Final Fantasy did. Because before Final Fantasy did it, everybody was like, this is ridiculous. It will never work. There is a litmus test now, and there is kind of a pathway forward. But I just feel like, man, it's an expensive pathway. Like if you just sit here and said, okay, like here's how we do it. And that's one of the things that's really impressive about New World. What I can say is they pushed it back to 2021. I've often said it's like, I wish these companies would have the discipline to say, whether it's good or if it's not ready, to say, hey, let's go ahead and move it on. And having played in, I'm just like, wow, I think this game is ready. Like, let's go. But now I have to wait until 2021, and we'll have full details and spoilers and deep conversations about New World coming up here at the end of August. All right, guys, it's time for us to talk some Halo Infinite. I was breaking up in my mind. This week has been interesting. We had the Xbox event, and I actually thought the gameplay looked great. I talked to Chris about it afterwards, and I said, "Hey, there's grappling hooks. It's like AKA Halo 3," and he basically is doing what he did. Not excited about it. Not excited about components and gear pieces.
Not excited what it means for PvP.
Right. And so I thought it would be great to have him, especially be able to share his thoughts, because I am really excited from everything I'm hearing, and to catch everybody up to speed, to set the context of what we know and what is rumored still. Halo multiplayer, Xbox Series X, 120 frames a second. Halo multiplayer in general, free. So there's no cost to play the multiplayer. Their Game Pass Halo, the campaign's already included in Game Pass. So when they said free, I'm like, okay, what does that mean? And then from there, then the rumor is that we're going to see a battle pass, aka something similar to Fortnite. And obviously, we've seen battle passes become the new thing over loot boxes. Halo 5's progression system was loot box based. We even have some comments that I want to kind of dive into here in a few minutes. But I want to go around. Chris, let's start with you. You and I play Halo together pretty consistently. I haven't been able to play the last couple of weeks. We moved over to Age of Empires for a little bit, but Halo 5 has been kind of a big staple in our gaming world for the last 5 years. When you heard about all the changes coming to Halo Infinite, what are your thoughts?
I mean, to put it in perspective, like I've played Halo 5 every single day since they showed us this footage. A minimum of 4 rounds a day, every single day. I have not missed one since they had this announcement. So I'm going on like weeks now. Mm-hmm. So I have put days and days and days into Halo 5. I have loved it, especially the multiplayer. The vast majority of my time is in multiplayer. I think I've got like maybe a day in campaign. I'm excited. I'm a little nervous about the pricing model. Mm-hmm. Halo 5 has always kind of gone under the radar as a game that's really heavily loot boxed, mm-hmm. And nobody ever talks about it. And I think Bungie just tries to not say anything.
343.
343.
Thank you.
No, you're good. Like there's studios right. Switching over.
In my head, it was like, no, I think you said the wrong thing. So I'm excited about it. I'm excited to get a new game. I'm bummed that we only get one Halo game per console generation. I think that showing the gameplay was a mistake, in my opinion, because everybody that got an Xbox was already thinking of getting Halo. And if Halo was free, everybody was going to. And so for the people that love it, they can go from I'm going to get it to I'm going to get it, which is a zero change. And it's not like there's going to be a collector's edition to buy. Like there's no money to give them. So making those people happier doesn't make them suddenly give you more money. And all the people who don't like the gameplay shown have a problem with it like I did. You've damaged the reputation of the game before we can go hands-on. Like I'll still get it, but like what if there's somebody who was on the fence and now because of this gameplay won't play? Like I just don't see any reason to have shown us as much as they did. It was a lot. They showed us a ton. They showed us the way the UI will look. They showed us combat. They showed us cutscenes. I feel like they showed us a ton for it being in the middle of a larger announcement.
Also, it was what, a 4-month-old build and running on a mid-spec PC, not even on the Series X itself. I mean, that's crazy. You're showcasing, you know, something that's supposed to, you know, be your flagship title. I think it looked good, but it didn't look exceptional.
I love the memes. I love the memes. Like out of every video
Craig
game
is
thing,
great.
I love Craig. He's fantastic. And then beyond Craig, like even with the PS5, where they're like just memeing on the design of the system itself. Like I love the thing I love about console wars is the memes. I like the jokes. I like kind of they're fun, the good natured ribbing. When it comes down to just people like, you know, I guess being, you know, assholes to each other, like then I'm like, whatever. Like we all are gonna end up having every system anyway. Just get over it. But yeah, I was like, I still think the game looks great. I still am impressed by the look. I like the art design right now on the screen with a little pop in the background. It's like, okay, like I'm not worried. Like if at the end of the day, like if that is essentially like, oh, I'm not going to play it because it's, you know, it doesn't. I don't know what the concept of what you're looking for visually is. I'm just like, the multiplayer needs to be good. The question that I keep saying hands down is, why would I play this over Destiny 2 Beyond Light? Like outside of the campaign and playing maybe a little bit with my friends, what about this is going to keep me coming back day over day, week over week, versus that of the other sunken cost game that I have, which is Beyond Light. And then they go and announce it free to play. And that's all of a sudden I go, they're really serious, because then the question is not just about me and Destiny. It's about, what about these kids who are playing Fortnite? What about these kids who are playing, you know, Apex? What about, like, the fact is that it seems like the biggest shooters out there aren't just on every platform. There's also no entry fee to do it. And this is where some of the comments on the YouTube channel come in. But I want Chaos and Nick to weigh in. My AC just kicked on and I don't want that blasting through on the podcast. So, Chaos, go ahead.
So I'm not sure if you've heard of a game called Rocket Arena. It was released by EA not that long ago, maybe about a month ago. So a lot of people assumed that game would be free to play, and it actually wasn't. It was $40 out the door, and it done terribly. It didn't sell at all, and it's a perfect example of why those type of games, multiplayer games in general, need to have a free entry. You can monetize it any other way because you know the cosmetic side of things will sell. If you have a paid barrier for a multiplayer game, it's doomed to lose. And like Rocket Arena now is what, £10? I think it is, or £7. And it released like 3 weeks ago at 40 quid. And EA had to reduce the price because no one's buying into it. But the damage is already done and no one cares about Rocket Arena anymore. I think if they allowed Halo to be part of a paid purchase, then it wouldn't have been as big as it can potentially be right now. The audience that it can reach now is huge because it's free. And the battle pass that's going to come along with it will more than pay for all the costs that they're going to be incurring, because people are going to jump onto that.
To put that math into perspective, Fortnite cost $22 million to make. GTA 5 cost $290 million to make. They have spent over $500 million on this game. I am not confident they can make that back on a battle pass. There's got to be more to that microtransaction. There just has to be. There has to be. $500 million.
Cosmetics.
Before marketing.
Well, you got to think Game Pass being a key part of it. The thing that I want to know is that, let's say there is the battle pass, and however long battle passes last, everybody seems to have a different kind of time frame for that. With the battle pass, if it's tied into Game Pass, everybody who's on Game Pass automatically has battle pass. It sells Game Pass. That's like that. Hands down, Microsoft is more interested in getting more people into Game Pass than they are any one specific game. It's just like, this is what we offer. Halo Infinity they've already said it's a 10-year plus game already. So there isn't going to be Halo 7. This is pretty much going to be it. And who knows, this could be just pretty much it for the next beyond 10 years, right? We see these 10-year games easily stretch to 20 years and so on. And so if it's integrated right then, all of a sudden, everybody who's got Game Pass is already a part of the Battle Pass. You're good to go. Otherwise, it's just something that they're going to sell those seasons. That's going to be something that people have come to expect. And I think when you look at it, Chris, like when you talk about it took $22 million for Fortnite makes like $2 billion a year, So if they spend half a billion, well, it might be 3 now. But how do you
It's a big number.
Right. How do you chip into that? How do you break into that market? You can't break in with an upfront cost because the kid is just going to say, I've already spent, like, I've heard horror stories, $800. Somebody's like, I came home and I had an $800 bill. Don't hook your credit cards up to these slot machines, parents. Pro tip. But it's still like the money I think essentially free to play really isn't that. We have to think of it as we've removed the amount of money the maximum amount of money that you can spend. So it's like, instead, the trade-off is that like with a buy to like, here's the $60, I've paid my 60, and then any extra hour of joy I get on that's just profit for me, the player. Now it's like we've removed you can spend 60 or you could spend 6,000. We have armor that looks like a whale because we're going to just translate the whale of Halo into a direct whale in the game itself. Enjoy. Thank you very much for your support. It just seems to make sense. Go ahead, Nick.
I just wanted to point out that in Halo 5, there is actually a whale helmet.
I haven't ever seen that one.
It actually exists. It's a fun one. But no, I definitely agree. I mean, lower barrier of entry means more players, means more people to spend money. Like, even if only like 1% of the players actually spend money, the free-to-play entry means that there's more people, more of that 1%.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, according to rumors, the customization is going to be way more, like there's going to be more options than Halo Reach, which I think at the moment has the most options out of all Halos.
Probably.
From memory.
It should be, yeah.
Halo 5, I'm actually coming up on, I'll probably 100% complete the entire loot system for Halo 5 before Halo Infinite comes out, and I didn't spend a dime. Other than the things that, the voices that you have to spend money for.
Now, I'm going to say, Snork says, I really don't care about the graphics issue. I understand why people are upset, but I personally don't care. However, 343 has yet to release a good game, and I don't really have a ton of confidence in them. Now, for me, I actually really enjoyed Halo 4. Like, I like the combat. Halo 3 was my Halo. Halo 4, I really enjoyed the story. I thought, like, Halo 4, from out of all of them, delivered the most emotional and well-told story with Cortana and Master Chief all together. Halo 5, but that like it whiffed hard narratively, and it only whiffed as hard because the marketing was so good for that game. If you were following the marketing, because I was listening to all the podcasts they were releasing, going over all this. I was in for Halo 5, and then you go and experience the campaign. You're like, that was just disjointed. Like it just was like. Okay, you fight the warden 5 times, like it's like there's, and then you go look at Destiny, who's doing something just so out there, so well done that it's like, okay, well, I'm just gonna go play that game. I want to drive in real quick to some comments that we got because I think this is really interesting when it relates to the Battle Pass itself. James over on Ginger Prime, which you should sub to this channel and that channel and Work to Game and Ukumio and Chaos. Sub to us all. Links are in the description. I should probably open the podcast with that. But James writes and says, if they put a Battle Pass in the game, then they've killed this game immediately. I don't mind the new pistol and shotgun. I don't mind anything that's happened so far. I love the look so far, but if they do a battle pass, that's it. And I kind of followed up and said, hey, no judgment, but like, can you provide more detail? Which he does, and I think it's really great, and this is what I wanted to get y'all's thoughts on. He says, I feel Halo has always had a good system for unlocking new armors, and I've had a few different ways that they've done it, and they could draw inspiration that would be easily and much more interesting than a battle pass. In Halo 3, you unlocked armors by doing achievements. In Reach, you unlocked through a combination of leveling up and then buying them with earned credits. In 4, all the armor had unlock requirements, either being tied to your level or a specific challenge. In each of these games, you could choose what armor that you want to do and go on first. You could choose to completely a certain challenge and a certain reward. The battle pass is in the same is the same for everyone, no matter who you are. You unlock things in the same order, and that's not even including the idea that some armor could be locked behind a paywall. I would be all right with it if they handle it like Master Chief Collection, if the Battle Pass is purely for things like weapons and vehicle skins. I just feel like it's an objective step backwards for the Halo player freedom. I think that they would ruin it, and it would be far in a bit far, but they could just as much less Halo, original, and interesting. Guys, do you have any thoughts on that?
I do want to jump in. First off, I want to state I do think the Master Chief Collection is trial and error for Halo Infinite. A lot of the stuff we're seeing there, especially around the Battle Pass, we might see in Halo Infinite. Another thing is the first season of the MCC Battle Pass. That was all armor for the Halo Reach. So it's not just weapons and skins. It was armor. But, you know. But no, Season 2. I mean, I do like MCC's way of doing the Battle Pass. It's the same way in Gears, I think, in which you can actually go back and do previous seasons if you want. And also in Season 2, they actually made it so you can unlock in any order per tier. So, you know, you don't have to go in order from 1 to 100. You can go 9, 8, 7. You have to unlock the first 10 before you get in the next 10, but you can unlock it in any order. But I mean, personally, I think the Battle Pass is the next evolution of what we saw in Reach, of, you know, getting gear, armor.
It just makes me nervous. I'm not saying it can't be great. I'm saying I was super stoked on Halo Infinite, unbelievably excited, and like I can only come down from there. And like that's what this did for me. This immediately, it made it so real that now I can have questions. I don't know, just nervous.
Chaos.
I think it's a trade-off. I mean, if the game is going to be the multiplayer is going to be absolutely free, it's going to need some way to fund it, right? And I think there's going to be a balance between, at least this is what I believe, there's going to be a balance between what you can actually earn and what you can get from the store and what you can get from the Battle Pass. I think it's going to be split 3 ways. And unlike now where you can almost get everything by playing it in-game and earning it, because it's going to be freely available to everyone, I think the rewards are going to be split to 3 tiers. Pay cash up, Battle Pass, and earn through achievements in-game. And I think that's okay. Yeah,
I don't have a fundamental issue with it if I actually play it. One of the things I've looked at it, and I'm never capped out a Battle Pass. I like how Gears did it, but you had to pay for Gears. Gears isn't free, but Gears had this, you know, it's got its seasonal kind of Battle Pass style thing. You unlock it, and then you can get additional daily and bigger rewards. So there's a big game of things that you can get by achieving it. So if anybody's played Gears 5, it's like, hey, if you knock out all of these achievements, you're going to get this, but then you're also going to be making progress on the Battle Pass, etc. Then you have your dailies. So there was all kinds of things that they were always kind of like, I always felt in Gears like I was always just on the cusp of unlocking something else, which kept me playing just one more game. I'm like, oh man, I didn't know I was so close to actually getting that done. One more game that I'll knock out the heavy ammo, heavy power weapon stuff. Cool, boom, got it. Oh man, I'm only like one match away from knocking this thing out. Oh, okay, well, you know what? And Chris and I had that experience with my brother, the Yeti, one time doing Destiny. We're like, let's just keep playing until we lose. And we went like 20 games, like doing and just like crushing it to the point where we're like, okay, well, we thought we were gonna lose. For some reason, we're not. we have to be adults about this and just go to sleep because it's like we all have work in the morning. Like
What
we
do you
can't.
mean?
I know. But it was like it literally was like already like when we said we'll just play till we lose. Like it was already 2 a.m. and we just continued to go. And it's like at some point we're like, this is going to be bad tomorrow, and I don't think anybody is going to care that we're tired. You were on a 40-game win streak. Well, take the day off. Why don't you?
See, compassionate.
That's the employer. My hope is that Battle Pass is connected to Game Pass. I think if you keep funneling that in to where. Why are you paying for the Battle Pass, dude? Like, just get Game Pass and you've got it. Thus, contributing overall to the Microsoft's bigger strategy and making the value of Game Pass itself.
Game Pass looks good.
Oh, dude, Game Pass looks. Dragon Quest 11 is coming to Game Pass.
Game Pass looks good.
Final Fantasy 14 something maybe. I don't know. Cross some fingers.
I think the greatest purchase this holiday season would be a couple months of Game Pass. Go buy $60 worth of Game Pass and just go nuts. They are bringing so much to it.
Mm-hmm. Hands down. Nick, you were going to say something?
I just think I think we can all agree it's just a great thing that there's not going to be any loot boxes in Halo Infinite.
I'm very happy by that fact. I think that's a very important thing. Anybody?
You think there won't be?
I don't think.
I don't think you can pay for them. I don't think you can pay for. Like, I don't care. Like, people like get upset. Like
the way
boxes,
you can in
it's like,
Halo 5, where I can just straight up buy them.
Right. You can.
Yeah. No, they've confirmed no loot boxes.
Yeah, I think the industry, gamers have pretty much spoken. It's just something that people just. It makes money, but the side of it that you always see with gamers is then, what do you mean they're charging $20 for this? Well, yeah, they were charging 99 cents for a chance of getting it, so you could spend algorithmically. I think they balanced it out to where you were spending $20 on it regardless. But
what game did that? What game said, okay, like we take $1,000 developing an item and implementing it, it brings us in $15,000 worth of cash or whatever that we can go use towards paying developers and all this other stuff. This is how many people will buy it. So right now it's in a loot box. That's the math. So let's just back that math out and let's just sell it at what it costs. And then people were like, was that? And people were mad because items were really
$275 for a gun skin.
Yeah.
But what that told me is like, no. And from what I understand of their statement was like, and we lowballed it. Like, you guys don't know how much money we're making. Like,
loot boxes make a lot of money.
Careful what you ask for.
Yeah.
Loot boxes make a lot of money because it's just that, addiction to continue pulling until you get what you're looking for.
That's why I like the Battle Pass over the loot box. I don't think, and to the respect to James and his comment, like the Battle Pass is killing Halo. Like, I've long said Halo has to evolve. And to respect, like I get the hardcore Halo fan base that's not playing the game anymore. It's like they're like, oh, Halo just needs to go back to that. Like, you can go back and play Halo 1 right now. You can go back and play all of your Halo experiences. And why aren't you? Don't sit here and say like Halo Infinity needs to appeal to the gamers who aren't actually actively playing. It's got to compete against the Fortnite. It's got to compete against all these games that are like dominating in terms of streaming. Like, we can't not acknowledge the impact that like Twitch and all that and YouTube gaming and all like Facebook gaming for the most part like all have in that regards. And anybody who's seen kind of my bandage, I gave blood yesterday, so it's not like I'm fine. It was just me giving blood. Like, I saw like my hand's been down and I put it up. I'm like, oh, I hope nobody's gonna be like, what's wrong with Brian's arm? And I think that the fact is like you got to speak the language that people understand. The majority of people understand the Battle Pass, and whether you agree with it or disagree with it, markets have spoken. And until a better system comes along, I think when you look at Battle Pass versus loot box, I think people are fundamentally more interested in the Battle Pass because it shows you everything you're going to get if you play. And if you don't,
I think Chris nailed it on the head when he said, games now cost $400-500 million to make. They're not costing the $20 million that they did 15-20 years ago. That cost needs to be recovered. And if loot boxes now, with the bad stigma that they've got, companies are just scared now to even mention the word loot box. I mean, now you've got surprise mechanics. Ta-da! But,
That's funny.
I think the Battle Pass is the next evolution to that, where you can see what you can get. You pay, $10 for a season?
Yeah.
£10 a
That
season,
seems to
and
be the acceptable.
it lasts for 3 months, so it's like what, £3.33 a month,
Mm-hmm.
and you can see what the rewards are, what you can work towards, and make your way through to where you need to be. You don't have to do it. You don't have to buy it. Everything in there is just cosmetic. But if you want to enrich your experience, why not? I mean, it's free, right?
Right.
The multiplayer is free. Crucible is free.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to pay a single dime to enter Crucible. You don't have to pay a single dime to enter the Halo multiplayer. So asking people if they want extra stuff to support the game, I don't think is a bad thing.
It's going to be interesting to see, because there's a big difference between Destiny 2, because you could come in and you feel like you get rolled because people have better guns than you, and you can blame the gun. Like, I think you can get I think you can compete at any level in Crucible, but it doesn't help the fact that you're like, how'd you get that gun? And you're like, oh, it's tied behind the season pass.
Well, there's a core difference in Halo PvP and Destiny or Call of Duty style, where you bring your equipment with you.
That's true. Yeah.
You come into Halo, and like, if they want there to be an amazing new rocket launcher, that's fine. It spawns on the power weapon spawn.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has access to it.
Yeah.
So they can't sell a better game because the PvP doesn't have anywhere to do it, unless they're going to start giving people bigger magnum sizes.
Well, I mean, that's assuming that we're only getting arena. So with Halo 5, they had Warzone.
Yep.
Yeah. I hate
mean,
it. I thought I was going to love Warzone, and I just can't stand it.
I mean, I enjoy Warzone Firefight, but not Warzone.
I guess I heard that they had an update. Yeah, I haven't played it yet.
You got to use those loot box items, though.
I know. I just sell them. I'm not going in.
I mean, I could totally see a mode where, you know, there is pay to win mechanics. I don't agree with that with Warzone, but whatever. But I mean, we know there's going to be arena, and that'll make most people happy, hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is there any way in Halo 5 within the Warzone modes, to actually get those packs and upgrades without paying?
Yeah, you just play.
I've never spent a dime, and you get the packs. So a gold pack costs me 10,000 credits, which I can get in about 4 to 5 games, depending on the boosts that you get out of your daily pack and your daily win pack. You get little minor packs that give you boosts that you can use. And yeah,
So that's
I
not
bought
bad.
hundreds and
5
hundreds
games,
and hundreds of packs off of just my days of playtime.
That's fine. Then I don't classify that as pay to win at all.
But
No,
the
I
items
don't
are
either.
consumable in Warzone. And so, like, if I liked Warzone, I would use them a lot faster than I could get the packs from earning them. So what would happen is they would give me a taste, and then I would sit in Warzone, and I would eventually run out of those, and I would begin paying. But since I don't like Warzone, I never run out of packs.
But that's the other thing, right? If you don't... The other team deathmatch modes in Halo,
Correct.
you can't
There's no
use them.
use for it.
Exactly. So they've
Purely
literally
cosmetics,
created
assassinations.
they physically created a game mode there for the use of that microtransaction, and
It's the majority.
it's isolated to the arena. Yeah, then I think that's
The
okay.
majority. The vast majority of the play modes, there is no use
See,
for the packs.
that's giving you the best of both worlds, and that's how it's supposed to be done. And credit to them.
All right. Guys, this has been a killer epic show. Thank you to my panel for jumping in. I want to say one of the things we're going to be bringing here to Ginger Gaming Radio is a New World podcast. I'll be dropping here in a couple of weeks. And I've got a poll over on our Work to Game Twitter account. Link should be in the description of this video. If you guys want to go vote on a name, it looks like right now New World Radio is leading the pack. And then you guys, so feel free to go vote and also leave your own suggestions for the upcoming New World podcast as we dive into that game some more. And somebody's like, "Oh yeah, you seem to, you're like really going in." I was like, "I've had New World as a planned podcast for a while, and having gone hands on with it, I go, great, not gonna cancel that." So guys, look forward to that. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and share out these videos and highlights with others, because that's the best way you can help Ginger Gaming Radio grow. Let's start with Nick. Nick, where can people find you?
They can find me on Twitter or Twitch as my main 2 outlets right now, at both Ukumio, UKUMIO on both, or I have my own website which links to both, which is ukumio.live.
Chaos, how about you, man?
You can find me on YouTube at ChaosPrime YTZ. I'm also on Twitter at ChaosPrime Z, and finally on Twitch, which is again ChaosPrime YTZ.
And Chris, where can people find you?
Work to Game. Right there with you, Ryan. Not far. I don't.
But I was glad Chris was available. It's so good that he's healthy again because I'm like, hey, dude, I'm doing this thing. Come join. He's like, okay. Like, yes. Because I knew, especially when it came down to the Halo multiplayer, when I told him, I was like, hey, they're bringing back equipment. Chris was like, oh, I was like, oh, yeah, we definitely need him to come talk about some Halo with us. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for tuning into the podcast. This has been Ginger Gaming Radio, Epic Loot Radio, episode 7. It's a great time hanging out with you guys. Thank you so much for all those who joined in live. Thank you for those who are watching this later and its replay. And we'll be seeing you next time. Until then, take care.
Later.
Cool.